Welcome. I'm your host, Dustin, and today we have a very special episode from a film that I watched when we got the screener for it a couple days ago. I think it's been like about a week. So we have Anthony and Natalie over here from Malum, and this is going to be extremely fun. Anthony, it's great to have you. Natalie, it's great to have you. How you both doing?
Thank you.
We're good. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Happy to promote Malum.
Yes.
We're excited.
Yes. Yeah. It's a fun film. We probably won't go into too much spoilers since the film is not out yet. But Anthony, that's on you. If you say, "Hey, let's do it." But if not, we'll hold back as much as possible.
Let some stuff slip here or there, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, if everybody has seen Last Shift, I think you kind of know what you're getting yourself into, even though this definitely does, add a lot different takes on it. And I have seen Last Shift, and that was great. So, Anthony, it's going to be a question I will be asking later, but it's really cool to see you redoing something that you've already done.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. So it was kind of crazy. We can talk about that. But I think for people who have seen the original, I know a lot of people are like, they ripped off Last Shift, and I'm like, well, no, it's us, it's me. We're doing it again, but differently.
But we loved that response.
Yeah,
we saw that online. I'm like, oh my gosh, look how passionate they are. And they're like, they're in your corner. I loved it.
Back though, it's me again. And yeah, I think probably a lot of filmmakers would love to be able to do that. I say like not since Cecil B. DeMille has it ever been done.
Yeah, I know.
But it was crazy but great, because when you have to leave stuff on the table because of like your budget size, and now you can kind of reinvent it and revisit it.
Yeah.
And expand on characters that you really liked working with. That was a great experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I'm kind of going to take everything back to the beginning right now. We could do it with both of you. I would like to kind of, see where everything started. Natalie, we can start with you. Where did acting and everything kind of start with you? Was it at a young age and you kind of always wanted to do that?
Yes, for sure. I was definitely known for writing and putting on, my own plays and Christmas pageant plays with the neighborhood kids and my siblings who begrudgingly had to be part. And doing interpretive dances and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's always kind of been in, but I wasn't able to, professionally act per se until I moved to LA, as soon as, high school was done. And got into that. I got into acting classes and whatnot, and actually fell into a lot of theater and, booked a starring role at the Mark Taper Theater in LA.
Oh,
and
wow.
So that kind of like kicked off things for me. And it was a really challenging kind of like first, hey, throw you into the deep end, because I literally was on stage for an hour and a half. And, that kind of memorization and also character development is intense for someone so young, because usually, when we see actors who are, 19 or 20 or whatnot, they have quite a breadth of experience under their belt, from growing up in the industry. And so didn't have that. And so that was a really good, quick, like, here, learn everything fast.
Yeah.
And it was great. And, and then booked some other, theater things. And then what ended up happening was there was us, a writer director team that saw me, and they ended up asking me to come audition for the lead in their film. And I ended up booking it. And that became my first film role. And then boom, I was auditioning for film and booking film from there on. And I played the love interest, the leading lady role in Deadheads, which was a zombie comedy.
Yeah.
And from there, I've just kind of worked in all genres, coming in and out of horror, even though I started in horror. So it's kind of good to be back into those roots, because it's as an actor, obviously, it's just there's so many more levels you can play with.
Oh, yeah.
As artists in horror. So it is more challenging for sure, more exhausting on set. But yeah.
Anthony's like, yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's in a nutshell. I mean, I was writing my own stuff too and performing it. That kind of went away as I got, the Hollywood agents and managers who were like, no, you can only be one thing.
Yeah.
And so I think, to today, like fast forward to today, had some time in the industry. Anthony was like a big proponent of pushing me, and he's like, why aren't you writing like anymore? Like, he's like, we should write together. He's like, we should, because he's like, because he would always ask me for feedback on his stuff, and he's like, I think we would be good together. So we started doing that in 2020, and we've had a lot of success, and hopefully some more. And we currently have a thriller out right now to market called The Step Counter that we're really excited about. And we're working on a couple of other projects, but that's really the start to currently where I'm at.
Yeah.
To now.
And it's like being married, it's like she's always going to be a co-writer in a way anyways. Like,
yeah. She's always going to be, I want to read that. Come on.
Yeah, I know. Like, might as well let you get credit for it, I guess.
Well, I guess with Anthony, we can kind of transition to you now. Where did everything start with you? I know your background's actually huge from like what I was reading up on, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, being a fellow, Massachusetts native, I went to Emerson. I always wanted to get into film. I loved. My dad was a big monster movie guy.
Hell yeah!
So it's like, and he is my dad's from a much older my dad's in his 90s now.
Oh wow!
So much older generation. He was what I grew up with, the like kind of Universal Monsters movies at a young age, and then he would rent a lot of horror and stuff when I was young. So I was watching horror like at a very young age. And I just loved the special effects. I just always wanted to do it. Like, I want to create that kind of stuff. Or like, but back then, you find something on PBS or something like making of the thing or making Star Wars, and you're like, oh wow, you get to see everything. And so I always, and for his love of movies, I always wanted to get in movies, and then kind of knew I wanted to go to film school, and I went to Emerson, and then this is a great school, at least at the time, because you could come to LA. You like finish your schooling in LA the last semester. So that's what I did. I was like, well, I'm gonna just go my last semester and stay. And I was lucky enough, I got an internship at Marvel when I was here.
That's crazy.
And that was like before Marvel was Marvel.
Yeah, exactly. But that's still huge. Having that in your resume.
I think it's funny. Well, it was funny too, because like when I went in and interviewed with them, I was like, listen, I don't really read Marvel comics. I'm like a DC guy.
Oh,
I
no.
I had like a Batman tattoo. I didn't want to, back then I probably should have lied through my teeth, but I was honest. But they knew I was knowledgeable in comics. So it's like, either I was the only choice they had or whatever, but they gave me the internship, and they were working on Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah. Wow.
And they just finished that, and they were like I saw like the credit sequence was being designed, but I had a lot more time on my hands. So I loved horror. I kind of reached out to my advisor. I was like, listen, can I pick up another internship while I'm doing this? And I'd love to do something in horror. And she was like, oh, yeah. So she's like, well, here's a list of the local guys. There's John Carpenter, Wes Craven, Clive Barker. I'm like, so I can meet these guys or what? I'm like,
yeah. It's like, that's huge. Those are huge names.
But so I had actually, the Nightmare on Elm Street box set had come out and on DVD, and that box set had so much behind the scenes on it. And Clive is all over that. And I got to hear him talk a lot about his views on horror, and Joe Daly, who worked with Clive, he was from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a fit. So I reached out to them, and I was able to get a meeting, and I met Clive was in that first meeting, which like kind of freaked me out. I was like, I would have been
like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Yeah. You're like, you're going to his house, and I was like, oh, I'm going to meet Joe, but then he was there, and I'm like, oh, well, okay, I'm in with it. But we had a lot in common. Like, he either comics or porn or whatever. Like,
just everything.
Everything. Yeah, he was never shy about,
yeah.
Like,
yeah, he's very open.
Like, he was like, hey, what are we doing today? Well, we're gonna go down to the porn shop and get some movies. I'm like, cool, let's go, man.
Wow. That's really funny.
But I just got along with him well, and I worked with him for like 10 years, developing and then eventually producing, and then that was the first job I got to direct was Dread,
Yeah.
based on stories. So that was a whirlwind, like, first 12 years of my
That's
entertainment.
so crazy. 10 years under his belt. Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Damn. Now look where you are. You're remaking your first film.
I know, I'm remaking my first movie. I've really hit another level.
Yeah. So, I wanted to ask too, like, what made you both want to go, or whoever like came up with the idea first of being like, you know what, Last Shift was great. Everybody loves it. I love Last Shift. That movie is so good. And if anybody hasn't seen it, you need to watch it before you see this one. But what made you want to go and reboot it?
Well, so it wasn't really my idea. I always wanted to. We talked about doing a sequel, like with
Yeah.
Scott. We're like, maybe we'll do. And we had ideas for a sequel, but like time had gone by, and we just never did it, and never wrote it, never got it off the ground. And then I was introduced to Luc LeBeau, who they started formed Welcome Villain, and we like clicked, and he was like, hey, I'm kind of forming this company. He's like, have you ever thought about kind of revisiting the Last Shift world? And I'm like, well, yeah. I was like, we talked about a sequel and this, and through our conversations, we kind of decided to do this reimagining that I was very happy with The Last Shift and everyone in it, all the characters in it, and it did everything I wanted it to do, but I wanted it to play theatrically. Like kind of designed that, even though it was a low budget horror film or an indie horror film, I felt it had the chops to play theatrically, that it was a crowd pleaser, that we designed the sound very much for a theatrical experience, and the festivals that did play it played well in the theater experience. So this one, from the get-go, they're like, we're going to do theatrical. So we again kind of like, okay, great, I can create the same feel of a movie that's meant to terrify people, that's meant to engage people for this window of time, a very experiential movie, but now get deeper on the characters, get deeper on the creature designs and the cult and their mythology. So that was how we got here today.
Wow.
And then Natalie,
Yeah.
she's the only returning cast member.
Yeah, that was crazy when I saw that too. I was like, whoa. Okay, so I like that though. It kind of gives you like a weird, like, here's like another universe essentially, but like Natalie's in both of them, and that's how I was kind of viewing it. I was like, that's so crazy. And it's really cool too, because we one of the main actors you have in here, Chaney Morrow, he's a friend of the show. He's been on. And when we had him on, he was talking so much about this music. Dude, you need to watch this. If you have a chance to get a screener for it or anything, you need to watch it. It's great. I was like, okay, all right. And as soon as he said, yeah, it's just like a reimagining of The Last Shift. It's written by the director and everything. And it's like, it's all like in-house people who have worked on it before. And I was like, okay, you have me amped. And my co-host, he's seen the movie. Unfortunately, since he's not here, he's too busy. But he's blown away. He loves Last Shift as well. And everybody else that we've talked to, they've been like, Last Shift was great. How can they make it better? I'm like, trust me. They make it better. They go way over the top, and I absolutely love it. So I wanted to go to you, Natalie. What was it like going, doing this movie you did like some odd years ago and then revisiting again?
It was a very unique opportunity for sure. I don't think as actors we get these type of opportunities, in our careers, and I probably won't have it again. So I really wanted to kind of dig into it and make sure that it was something different, and fresh. So in the event, fans that had seen the other see this, that they would feel like they were getting something new. And, not to say that I didn't leave everything on the table in the last one, because I did. And so that kind of was the challenge. I'm like, oh, how do I do this?
Yeah.
I think half that is good writing, and then the other half to bring it to life is the performance. And Anthony definitely covered that on the writing part. I saw the scene and I'm like, okay, I don't even know if I can do this. And he's like, oh no, you can do it. You can do it. We're gonna do it.
Like, we're gonna put you packed into that scene.
We're gonna put you through the audition process. Here we go. And so, but you kind of get over that, self-doubt as an artist, and you dig in, and it was very fun. And I really appreciated being able to build a deeper level of a character, really expand on it. I think in the first, and I won't give any spoilers, Marigold is more vulnerable and almost running away from something, and you kind of really feel that, while she's giving important information, almost as a soothsayer to Officer Lauren. And in this one, very similar, she's, bestowing important information, but there's this danger, this kind of uncertainty that's going on with this kind of strength underneath that was a little bit different. There's the elements of the vulnerability, but there's something else there too this time. And so for me as an artist, my goal was for people watching it to not recognize me and think it's a totally different character, and just, have to look it up basically to be like, is that the same actor?
Which I did. I was like, wait a second. I was like, okay, it is. Yeah, that was a really cool moment. I was like, that's so cool. Oh yeah.
And Chaney, right? I mean, he kills it. He's so enthusiastic about the part. And
the whole cast. I mean, I could go on, because I stand on set. I love watching everybody's work, and stuff.
Yeah, and Jessica did great too. Like, damn, what she goes through.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene was so fun with her, just because it's like you throw the ball, and you hope you get that ball back. Like, as an actor, I kind of look at it that way, that the energy that you kind of pour out into your character, and boy, she just gave it back, and and it helps kind of fuel the scene, and get to those levels, and crescendos, and I love it. I just can't wait for people to see her in this, because I remember seeing her in that M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I literally told Anthony, I'm like, I love the cheerleader.
Yeah.
And so I told her that when I met her for the first time in the makeup room, and she was so stunned, and I'm like, are you kidding? You were great in that.
Natalie just likes cheerleaders.
Nothing wrong with that.
She was great, but yes, I'm excited for fans to see her. Yes, they're gonna go wild.
For sure. Oh yeah. And everybody in here, they really give everything. Like, last shift, everybody was putting everything in. You can feel on the screen of how much everybody was giving themselves to it. But this one, it ups it so much, and there's way more darkness, more claustrophobic areas that was really getting to me. And being in a cell, and then not knowing what's going on. There are some scenes on here that are kind of shot for shot, but they're so redone that it doesn't feel too familiar, and I appreciate that a lot. It's not like I'm rewatching the same movie. So I want to really put that out there for everybody, and for the both of you to hear that it doesn't feel like I'm watching the same movie again. And really good job on doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As a horror fan, and I digest horror constantly every single day, and being able to see this before, and I am going to see it in theaters. I'm definitely going to. And I have a bunch of friends that want to go see who are also fans of Last Shift. So I'm like, you're not going to be disappointed by this at all.
What's great is I think the theatrical experience will again feel just a lot different than you watching it on a screener, because
for sure.
Sound is such a big part of it, and how we design the sound for the room. I think you'll get that when you're in a theater.
Yeah, and also all the special effects on here, it was all pretty much practical, right? For the most part. Wow. Yeah,
I mean, we enhanced stuff where we had planned to, and things like that, but everything started on set as practical, and it's I always hate it in movies. It's you're flipping through Instagram and you see this awesome creature design, and then you watch the movie and you're like, wait, they just totally redid it in CGI, but the original creature design looks so much better.
Yeah.
And I always killed, and I love I Am Legend. I mean, I think that's a good adaptation. The Will Smith one, I think, is a solid adaptation of the book.
Yeah.
But when you look at the original designs they had for because in the book it's vampires and in the movie it was vampires. When you look at, I think it was Steve Johnson, what he created, I'm like, why didn't they use that in the movie? It was so, and that happens a lot now, even with like A Quiet Place. So you look at all this artistry that goes into the creatures, and then none of it makes its way into the movie.
Yeah.
And from the actor point of view, we love practical effects because it's so visceral and it just puts you into that place so much faster, from a performance perspective. Not to say that we're not imaginative people and crazy, that we can't work in front of blue screens and green screens too, because we can, but there's just something about, films that do use practical effects that I just think from a performer standpoint is amazing, because it's like, boom, it's there. It's in your face, and it just really adds to that visceral element that I think fans are looking for,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of practical effects. Obviously, CG has its place, and we've talked about this multiple times on the show. CG is just really there to kind of enhance things, like you were saying, Anthony, kind of just make things feel a little bit more that you can't get in real life. Like, okay, I want to add just a little bit more blood there or something to make it look fuller, or I want to darken up a part on the prosthetic or something like that. That's completely fine. But this, like, I could tell it was practical, and I love that I could tell that it was practical. There are movies out there who claim that they're practical, and it doesn't look like it. This one I could feel, it was like I was watching an 80s horror movie, and I love that. Yeah, so it was really, really cool to see that on this. I mean, the last one on Last Shift, like there was practical, I could tell on that one, but this one it's so more visceral. And the lighting in this one, I think, was handled way better. You could do way more with the airs that you were doing. The police station really felt like its own character a lot more in this one, which I also really liked. Did you use a real police station for this, or was it all a set?
All real police. The first one was a real police station, and this one was as well. And the aesthetic, you set, your police station is going to set a lot of the aesthetic of the tone of the movie. Because in the first one, and again, because we were on a limited budget, all the walls were white, right? Yeah. It was like, this place is just stark white. Yeah. And it's like, for a horror movie, I just kind of embraced it. I was like, all right, so turn on all the lights, like have all the fluorescents on. And then when we go dark, just turn off everything. And it's just her and her flashlight. But you kind of had to embrace, like, all right, there's a lot of light in that first movie. And in this one, the police station, it was like 10 times the size of the first movie.
Oh, wow.
The 4-story police station, it had a basement in downtown Louisville, Kentucky, in the city. It was a huge police station. And we had the run of the place. It was decommissioned for I think it was empty for like 2 or 3 years. And you go in there and you just get a sense of all the lives that were lived in there. There was blood on the wall. There was like,
wow.
Like every corner of it smells like piss. And it's
I can imagine that.
there was a whole section with, like, I don't know what it was, but it was by the showers, and it said pube combs. And I'm like, see, you can't
oh, no.
I'm like, this is where they got their pube combs.
Oh my God, that is so funny and so gross at the same time.
So, yeah, it feels so real because you're walking into it and you're like, it is real, and you're like, man, people lived here. People spent huge chunks of their lives here, and it and the design of it, like the green tile, and there was this bizarre mural on the wall. So we kind of recreated our own bizarre mural that just said police, like Land for Police, but there was just, you always think there's a grassroots feeling. You think because it's a government building or a city building, there'd be consistency. Like you feel like, oh, it's gonna feel generic, but it had so much of its own personality, like arts and crafts. like just see things and like oh, that's their local pizza. They have it like, I mean,
Yeah.
shit was still taped to the walls and
Wow.
like jokes over the.
The architecture was very
Yeah.
1940s, 1950s, and it kind of that aesthetic kind of carried through, but with this decrepitness.
Yeah.
Which, and like Anthony's saying, like when you stepped onto that set, you could feel that it was a real place. And all the things he's saying are 100% true. And then there was also kind of in some of those rooms on the different floors, there was a little bit of a heaviness
Yeah.
with the energy. And you just kind of were like, okay, I'm not going to go down that hallway.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely haunted. Definitely
It's
haunted.
definitely a lot of bad shit happened in there for sure.
Yeah, there was definitely a cult in there. You just awakened them when you were in there shooting this film.
But
I just thought of a funny thing. So they did not know, none of us knew on set that the entire so the room that we shot, Marigold and Officer Lauren's scene in, and Officer Lauren's in that, room for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Little things happen. There was a wall with all this electronics.
yeah.
And so with wires coming out of everything, like it was not.
It was like a servo on the wall.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
was not put together. It looked like it had been torn apart and re-put together. And so we just all assumed
But it was flashing.
it was decrepit, and it wasn't real, but it was flashing something.
There was a camera in there watching you?
No.
Oh man.
The sound guys were like, we're picking up like this big servo on the wall. It's making
They're
a
like-
hum. They're
they're
like,
like,
can we just
let's
like
just-
disconnect
Let's
it?
just disconnect it.
So you're like, yeah, this place has been empty for years. Like, so
Why not?
We turn it off, and then the city's like blowing up the producer's phone. Like you just shut down like the entire email server for like the entire police
Oh
department.
my god.
And I'm like,
Why is
what?
it in there?
Why is it there? It doesn't make any sense.
Like, why?
Like this empty building that you've just handed over to a film crew.
What they should have at least told you, like, hey, just don't touch this wall. Whatever you
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
just don't touch it.
It was like stacks of things, wires like hanging, and like scotch tape, like
Yes.
holding pieces together.
So you would never think that
Yeah,
it was
like,
connecting the
oh.
entire police force for the city. And they were like called and they're like, get that back on now.
Oh
Yeah, they were
my
like-
god.
I mean, they were like, they're gonna shut us down if you don't fix this ASAP. I'm like, "Geez, I
Wow.
don't
Good thing you didn't rip it out of the wall.
Yeah, I know. Figure that sucker out."
Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah. Was there any other like weird things that happened in there? Or was it kind of just like that one thing?
They were, I'm sure there was, because when you're in it, everything's like feels real and creepy, but I just can't remember now. I mean, the shooting range downstairs, and that was a different location. But there was a shooting range in the police station. It was kind of creepy because we go down there and it was like they closed it off. And then there was these stairs that would just lead to nowhere. They would go up, there'd be
Yes.
concrete steps, and you'd walk up this thin concrete, and then it would be a concrete ceiling. You're like, well, what is this? And I guess there used to be tunnels that connected all the courthouse.
Oh, to transfer like the prisoners?
The prisoners,
Yes.
there are all these different subsect tunnels to go to these different government buildings, so they would never have to bring prisoners outside. And so it was super creepy because it was like half broken. And the guy, like the security guard, is like, yeah, you could probably get in there and like just.
Oh no, no, thank
They-
you.
Yeah, they did warn us because like the building's still connected to a facility across both underground, which was closed, but the above ground there was a walkway. There was like one part of the building like, do not go down there because they'll come out at you with like guns if you like cross.
Yeah, no, thank you, nope.
There's always this like threat of danger, like don't let the cast wander down, like don't let the extras wander down there. We don't need anyone like getting arrested.
Oh man, wow, that's crazy. This shooting range scene too is really, really cool. I love that whole scene that happens there. I mean, you see, most of it in the trailer too, and that really got me. I was like, whoa, okay, like why are you doing what you're doing? And that's another thing I always ask in movies is like, why do you go towards this one thing when you know it's just going to be awful?
We gotta get you there somehow.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really, really cool. How long was the shooting going on for?
Well, the initial shoot was about 20 days.
Oh,
and then
wow.
we did several we did a couple more days in Los Angeles, and then we ended up going back again for 2 more days in Kentucky to do some pickups and exterior like drone work and things like that, which was good actually, because like the movie was edited and we kind of knew what we wanted, and was able to get like a bunch more, and it actually had a big impact. Like it's great at that stage. We're like, I know exactly what we want. Let's just focus on it and shoot for 2 days and get exactly what we need. So it was a pretty long process overall, through the months.
Wow.
It's like 20 days.
Yeah.
Well, that's not too bad though. I feel like, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think nowadays, like, shooting a movie takes less time than it ever used to. I don't know if it's just because technology has like just gotten better. Everything's digital now. But it always feels like that. Everybody's like, yeah, I only shot the movie in like 10 days. I was like, what? Like, I've had people come on that say that. I'm like, how is that even possible? But 20 days, that's pretty good.
I mean, we shot the first one in 10 days. It was
Yeah,
a 10
see,
day.
like, how?
Very clear planning, right? And that was a 2-picture. We had 2 cameras, 2-camera movie. This was a single camera movie. It kind of dictates the style, when you're doing the. But it was good. I mean, it was good. You always wish you had more time, but I think those pickup days kind of eliminated that. You kind of just get it after.
Yeah, this film flows though. I love how the story goes and how there's so much more to it. So if you are a fan of Last Shift and you wanted more of that story, you get that here. You learn way more about the cult and everything, and there's way more violence in it, and I love that. I love, seeing people's heads explode and stuff, blood everywhere. It's super duper fun. Was there a scene that was harder to shoot? Natalie, I'll talk to you. Was there a scene that you had to do that was, that was harder than the rest of them, without doing spoilers? Unless you want to spoil them, that's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say harder, but more challenging for sure. I think anytime, you have to, reach like a really intense point, as a character, that's always a challenge. It's a challenge, one, to reach that, but two, to make it believable and grounded for the audience. And so that definitely was challenging. There was a lot of prep work, on my part that went into that. And then I know the first time that we did that on set, that was a little intense. There was just silence on set after he yelled cut, and there was just nobody was moving.
Oh wow.
I knew like,
because I like to go there. I was just like, I'll throw everything I do in the kitchen sink. So
because I knew like Natalie's, I knew these areas she could get to because I've seen her yell at me at home. So like I'm like, we're gonna
emulate that now.
play to these strengths, but Natalie's the kind of performer that when she enters a place, like kind of everything else goes away.
Yeah.
So like, because she screams a lot in that sequence, we would shoot it in segments and be like, okay, we're going to go this up to here, and then we're going to go up to here, just a little bit further. And then, but once she gets going, I couldn't stop her. Like, cause like I called cut, and then she's in it.
Yeah.
She don't hear what I'm saying. Like, she's like going, right. She's in it. But then the sound guys are like, I'm not ready. And it's like, like I wasn't expecting that. And everyone's like kind of stunned, like, whoa, what just happened?
Wow.
We did it again many times, and it's all good. I can keep going, but he's right. I mean, that's, and sometimes that happens. And that's what I'm saying. Like, your question about what's challenging is that's it right there. Is with those types of roles, it's just, you just got to really turn that notch all the way up. And sometimes it's hard to hear cut,
or come back from it. Once
yeah. Wow. Anthony, was there a scene, directing wise, that was, other than what we just talked about, was there another one that was difficult to get on film?
I think the hardest one, and I like writing the scene with Scott, and I knew it was like, this is going to be a high point for the movie, is that the hanging sequence in the third act, and because it was both stunts and an actress and effects and copious amounts of blood, it just essentially took a whole day, like to shoot like that moment. It's a lot of time and a lot of reset work and a lot of when you're dealing with stunts and effects at the same time, there's always going to be something that's going to go wrong, and you're like, okay, that went wrong, so now we do it this way, and like,
Yeah.
that was a challenge. Also, I was very adamant that this had to work, at a certain level, so it could deliver. So that was, I think, worth that work to get it to where it is now.
Yeah. Well, great job on both of you for making this come true. I was so surprised. I don't know if it had to have been Cheney who told me about this first before I heard anything about it, but I was like, really? So, I watched it and I'm like, yes, this is badass. Everybody needs to go watch this, even if you haven't seen Last Shift. This is a great, standalone movie. You don't really have to put it in there if you don't want to, because this has so much more to what you've already crafted and created. And Natalie, you explore way more in this one. And like, I think just how much, experience both of you have, it really shows in this film, and I need more. So is there anything that both of you are working on after this?
She mentioned earlier we have a thriller that we're taking out right now called The Step Counter. It's kind of like A Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And then, I would love to do more of Malum. I'd love to do a sequel.
Oh, yes.
And there's a lot more story to get into there. It's kind of the way we leave it. There's a lot more to do. So, if this does well, then I'd dive right back in.
Hell yeah.
You're gonna have Cheney on again now that you've watched?
Actually, I talked to him. I was like, because he's got this one coming out, and he's got Watch Dogs. So I'm like, once they're both, out there, I'm like, you need to come back on because I need to pick your brain about this, because what he does in this film, everybody knows him, from Haunt. He played Ghost. So he's like way more of a actor in this one. Like he's there. Like you'll know right off the bat, and that's what I kind of liked about it too. But I won't spoil it too much, but when he's there. But seeing him really out from behind the mask and being there and presenting himself as this threat and being so unhinged, which I really, really like, is really, really awesome. So I hope we see more of Malum. I really, really do.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both for making this happen. And I don't know if there's any other questions I have, but I usually do this as a fun thing. Is there any questions that either of you have for me?
What's your favorite scary movie?
Ooh, I can tell you my first horror movie is Halloween 1978. I am a huge Halloween fan. Michael has ruined my childhood in many of the greatest ways possible. I wouldn't be doing this without him.
Cool.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, awesome. Well, good. You have to add to that collection a Malum mask.
Oh, yes. Send it my way. Come on. Yeah, I'll take anything from you. I would love a poster, like, honestly.
All right. Well, yeah, we can definitely.
I want to support this because this might be one of my top movies of the year, and the year's just began. So awesome. I'm excited. It's weird to say this, even though it's not out yet, but this is a comfort film for me. For how weird that sounds to both of you, probably, this is a comfort film. I could toss this on and be like, yeah, this is a good time. I love it. I could just.
I know what you're talking about, though. I get it. You do have those movies that you're like, you relish in the gruesomeness of it, and you're like, no, I feel at home here.
Yeah, so I want everybody to go see this. It's March 31st, correct, is when it goes on into theaters. So get your tickets when they're available. I'm probably going to be going, every day of the first weekend. I always like to go to other different theaters to see, how crowds are. And this one I'm super amped for.
Yep, March 31st in theaters nationwide. So we're excited.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll let both of you go right now. This was super duper fun. Thank you both for taking your time out of the day to come talk to me. I know Dean's going to be very sad, but that's okay. You can listen back and be like, yeah, dude, you nailed all the questions for me. So I would love to have both of you back on too at any other point if you want to come on and talk about another film or anything. Yeah. We'll keep in touch for sure.
Yeah,
we will.
So thank you guys so much for listening. And go watch Malum March 31st. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.